Hey all, and welcome to Shadow Space, and we are commenting on another BCB video. This is called Black Marxists Triggered Over Anna Kasparian Finally Admitting the Truth About George Floyd and BLM. This was uploaded May 13th. This is being recorded May 14th, and link is in the description.
Didn't the Trump administration just get rid of a whole bunch of black and brown senior military officials recently who were up for promotion? Wasn't this a thing?
They got rid of a bunch of military officials that probably raised some red flags about what Pete Hegseth wants to do in the Middle East. Definitely. There's no question. Yeah.
So you don't think that race was a part of that? You don't think
that is a problem.
Yeah.
That is a problem. That is a problem. I honestly don't want to spend my entire life and career harping on race. Okay, that's where I'm at. I'm an American. We live in a diverse country. Everyone needs to be treated with
You don't? Oh.
with equality and respect. But at the end of the day,
That's unfortunate.
What pits us against each other the most are the elite, are those who steal money from every single one of our paychecks.
See, but like, this is the problem, is that you steal money from other people's paychecks. They steal money from your paycheck. This... If you watched the movie The Purge, the first one, this is the very end of that movie is all of the neighborhood people who are mad that they built this extra addition on their house. They used their money to build this extra addition on their house, felt like they got slighted because they misused the money, and so they came after them to try to hurt them. This is the whole idea. But, like, you give them their money, they give you, like, it all just flows around.
And funnel it to a foreign country so they can do atrocities.
The real people that divide us are the people who say, those people over there are the problem.
So they can expand their borders. Yes, I'm talking about
the people who go on witch hunts. The people who are constantly looking for someone else to blame for their problems except themselves.
Israel. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't give a shit about race at all. At all. I don't think about it. So, for instance, after the George Floyd protests happened and everything, there was this culture of people openly saying some pretty horrific things about, people with light skin. Just open racism against white people.
Anna Kasparian, what in the Charlie Kirk is going on with you, girl? Racialized individuals cannot be racist towards white people because racism is about power structures.
See, exactly. So to them, because black people have always been slaves, have always been B-tier citizens, they haven't had the power. So black people can be racist towards white people, and because they view racism through this lens, black people being racist to white people isn't racism. But the problem is that this doesn't matter. If the tactics that you are engaging in are racism, if you engage in racism, even if it is just about power structures, you are engaging in racism. You are being a racist. You can call it whatever you want. You can justify it however you want. You can provide any rationale you want. But if you are engaging in racism, then you are engaging in racism. Then you are being a racist. If the point is to eliminate racism, you can never be rid of racism. Because if there is ever a system that rises up, that oppresses you specifically because of your race, then you need to be able to be a racist in order to combat that new opposition. You can't ever get rid of racism. It has to be a part of you that you can use when you have to, if you have to.
People of color can be racially prejudiced towards white people, and often rightfully so, but because they lack the institutional power relative to white people, they cannot be racist. Prejudice, when combined with institutional power...
See, they can be. Just because you don't call it racism doesn't mean that that isn't what they're doing. You even say right here that they are engaging in racism. They just justify it differently.
An acts of discrimination and oppression and is therefore classified as racism. You go on to talk about how the working class is struggling because of rising economic inequality, and I agree with you, but you can support the working class without neglecting systemic racism and perpetuating the myth of reverse racism.
Well, then you can do that without putting race into it. If you can do it without, then you can do it with.
Boy, 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 boy. So we got to talk about a black Marxist meltdown. Yes, I am going to use black Marxist today instead of black liberal. I guess I'm going to be more accurate in regards to how I describe these people, because that's what this is, right?
Well,
It's
see, it's all self-ID. So it's all meaningless because the words that they use are all self-defined. They don't use standard definitions. They use whatever definitions they personally think fits the word.
Marxist meltdown. We have the cultural.
You have to think of it like they're speaking a different language. The words that they're saying don't mean what you hear the word and you think that they mean.
Marxists versus the regular Marxists, right? The culture Marxists.
You say sky, they say Seo.
Just so happen to be black, okay, and they adhere to race politics, identity politics over anything else, right? And then you have the regular Marxists like Anna Kasparian, who believes that the real conflict is between the rich and the poor, right? The proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, right? The billionaires are the problem, okay? So she's a regular.
See, so this is someone that divides. This is someone who says, our group is the better group. We have the right ideology. We are on the right side of history. But those people over there, those are the enemy. Those are the bad guys. We have to do everything in our power as often as we can and as hard as we can to try to disrupt everything that they're doing. How is that not division? How is that not pitting people against each other? Unless you're going to say that this is a wealthy elite, which, like, I would say that a lot of the influencers today are wealthy elite.
Marxist, and as a regular Marxist, she doesn't care about race as much, right? This is what she was explaining in a recent interview, right? And she talked about, what happened in this country post George Floyd and how there was open demonization of white people, right? Open demonization of people based off skin color and race. And she just, told the truth about what we saw.
Well, see, no, it isn't demonization. It's racism.
The George Floydification of his country, and black Marxists are currently triggered, right? They're losing their minds, and I want to react to some of it.
I don't really care, but I know how devastating and toxic it is to a society. So, for instance, after the George Floyd protests happened and everything, there was this culture of people openly saying some pretty horrific things about, people with light skin.
They already do. Like, YT culture is a thing that exists.
Just open racism.
In the same way that something like black culture or like black fatigue exists.
Racism against white people. And I know that sounds crazy.
It's all just bigotry. It's all just, well, I don't like them and their culture.
Right? But we're also living in a country right now where it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're a working class person, you're screwed. And how is it helpful to now do the reverse of the terrible, bigoted.
See, but if you look at it from the view of someone like an antinatalist, existence is suffering. If you follow that to its natural conclusion, then there's no actual reason to try to alleviate suffering because it will always be there. You can't alleviate suffering. That's a fool's errand. You will never be able. It's baked into the system. It's part of the equation. You can't take it out of the equation, ever. It will always be there. So if that's true, then try and go back.
Right? But we're also living in a country right now where it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're a working class person, you're screwed.
You're screwed anyways. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're not thinking about you and yourself. You're thinking about the next generation. You're thinking about that which will succeed you, because you are a finite being whose physical existence has a limited time span on this planet. Most people don't care about the next generation or generational wealth, so they don't care about this.
And how is it helpful to now do the reverse of the terrible,
Sorry, give me a sec.
bigoted or biased comments that were said about other groups of people? Like, you're not going to change the culture unless you're willing to reject all of that, right? And you don't want to see it directed at anyone. I even saw it directed at Asians during the affirmative action fights because
Why do you think why would you think that bigotry would only affect black people?
there were a group of Asians who challenged affirmative action all the way
most large groups of incoming migrants into this country, like post 1800, faced stigma, faced discrimination, faced othering by the majority that already existed there. White, black, European, Asian, Indian, didn't matter. My camera cut out. 1 sec. We're back.
And so all of a sudden you have a minority group in the United States that people on the left were saying some pretty horrific things about because of the fact that they're Asian. Oh, Asians think so highly of themselves. They think they're white. And this, how is that conversation helpful? It's not.
They've gotten way too comfortable. Just
Wow.
saying off the wall crap now. Ever since SCOTUS gutted Section 2, the masks have come off. Has there ever been an instance?
See, Anna Kasparian has already said this before. She's gone on one of these, like, quasi-Republican rants. This is not new.
Where white people have felt suppressed, have had their rights stripped from them by black people.
If you think about it, they did. If slavery was a white person institution, that was stripped from them. If they use things like redlining and different Jim Crow laws and segregation, all of that was taken away. Actually, white people's culture in this country has changed drastically. And it's all concessions to try to be more inclusive.
Like, have black slave owners captured white slaves before? Please find it. People like Anna are expecting a black
I don't know.
community to want revenge.
Would people not in this country count? Because I'm sure that there were probably black tribes who maybe captured white people. Well, I mean, like, South America? Would South America count? I imagine they probably captured some of those conquistadors and killed them pretty good. So, and they probably chased after the ones that tried to run away. So,
And
yes.
y'all have been waiting for this.
I mean, I guess they wouldn't be slaves. Although they wouldn't be like labor slaves.
Revenge for 400 years. It would have happened already if it was ever going to come. We're better people than that. The racism is coming from one side. And until...
No, it's coming from both sides. You just justify it on your side by saying, well, because black people in this country were slaves, I can be racist. I, as someone who shares a skin color with those people, not necessarily even an ancestry or a lineage, I can be racist to whoever I want to if they're oppressing me, and that's appropriate.
Anna and people like Anna are willing and ready to admit that, we're not going to get out of this. The left doesn't start with anti-capitalism. It starts with anti-racism. So just wanted to put that out there.
So it starts with the racism. Got it.
Yeah. So that was a little preview of why I find this conversation to be so fascinating. Okay, from just the perspective of somebody who loves to observe the laugh. It seems like there's a deep divide amongst the Marxists.
They have some very interesting ideas
In regards to how the victimhood totem pole should be set up, right? In the sense that
it definitely makes you wonder where they get half of their ideas from. I have no idea.
Is oppression based off race, or is it based off socioeconomic status? Again, normal Marxists, classical Marxists,
Well,
I'm going to call
see, this is the beauty of it, is that anyone can be an oppressor. Your parents can be oppressors. Your teachers can be oppressors. Police officers and government officials. The homeless guy on the street, he can be an oppressor. You just point the finger wherever you want, and then the attack dogs go and attack. It's brilliant.
Anna Kasparian, right? Like
It's
Anna Kasparian.
it's how to make an army for dummies.
Yeah, they believe that no, it's not about race and identity.
Convince them that the outside social groups are inherently hostile. All outside social groups are inherently hostile to your social group. And in order to maintain your social cohesion as a group, to maintain your cultural identity, you have to be waging maximum warfare all the time with all of the other social groups around you to make them assimilate to your social group. All under the guise of you're not doing it to assimilate them into the culture, but you're doing it for their own good.
It's about class, right? It's the billionaires versus everybody else. The billionaires are evil, okay? That's what she believes. They're the cause of all our problems.
It's the difference between outright destruction and corruption.
And they're supposed to be in bed with the cultural Marxists, who also don't like the billionaires either. But they feel like race is actually a very important component of the oppression. And Anna Kasparian's weak spot when it comes to her Marxism,
because it's a natural weak point in the argument, is that yes, we used to be a slave-owning country.
Is the fact that she does not consider race as heavily as she should, right? Which is creating conflict amongst the Marxists who are supposed to be in solidarity, right? Against the oppressor. They just can't all agree on who the oppressor is. So
no, because there's no unity in the Democrat Party.
We're going to get into more reactions from black Marxists who are upset with Anna Kasparian, basically calling her a racist, okay? But I just want people to keep in mind, right? We should not feel bad for Anna Kasparian because she was participating in the demonization of white people that now, in 2026, she believes is so bad. She was kind of participating that during the George Floydification of this country just because in her mind, there were white people who did not believe that George Floyd was murdered. Take a look.
There was no physical evidence that George Floyd was murdered by a cop. The autopsy showed that George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose, fentanyl. But by that point, facts didn't matter. It was too late. Cities had been destroyed, along with the fabric of this country itself. Scores of people had been killed. Democratic partisans used a carefully concocted myth, a lie, to bum rush America into overturning the old order and handing them much more power. It worked flawlessly.
What does that even mean? Cops get to go around murdering people with impunity all the time. So what, wait, people who are protesting?
So do random people. In fact, the cops that kill these people with impunity that you say usually go into other places and kill other people.
matter the ones in power or with power. And also for all the white people celebrating this, celebrating that ridiculous argument in defense of Derek Chauvin. I know a lot of you are also addicted to drugs. And so you're setting an incredibly dangerous precedent when you say that it's okay for cops to manhandle you and murder you in broad daylight like that, as long as you got a little drugs in your system. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. George Floyd isn't here to defend himself. George Floyd was walking about. He seemed perfectly fine until Derek Chauvin decided to kneel on his neck and not let up until George Floyd was dead. I don't care what he had in his system. That argument from Tucker Carlson is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. So that's why I find this to be so funny, right? This conflict between Anna Kasparian and the cultural Marxists who are upset that she isn't woke enough on the issue of race. So without further ado, let's get into more of the backlash she is receiving.
Tell you what, I would just kind of only like half paying attention. I don't even never know what his argument was. Where are we at? 925?
In her mind, there are white people who did not believe that George Floyd was murdered. Take a look.
There was no physical evidence that George Floyd was murdered by a cop. The autopsy showed that George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose, fentanyl. But by that point, facts didn't matter. It was too late. Cities had been destroyed, along with the fabric of this country itself. Scores of people had been killed. Democratic partisans used a carefully concocted myth, a lie, to bum rush America into overturning the old order and handing them much more power.
Because, well, again, because, I mean, there was that guy in Texas where that guy tried to steal his car and he killed him.
So without further ado, let's get into more of the backlash she is receiving.
The dad with the gun wasn't white, and the guy who was stealing cars looked Hispanic. I don't...
You know, there was this culture of people openly saying some pretty horrific things about, people with light skin.
Light skin is white skin. And the culture of people that she's
I don't know. Are Asian people white people?
talking about, being that she brought up George Floyd, she's talking about black people.
Just open racism against.
So is it only black people, or is it black and brown people?
White people, and I know.
Or is it black and brown and Asian people? What groups exactly is she marginalizing?
Now heading into reverse racism. We all know that reverse racism does not exist. The definition of racism is prejudice, bias, plus power.
See, what is racism? It turns into this, it's prejudice plus racism plus power. So, hold on, wait.
Of racism is prejudice,
bias, okay.
plus power, meaning you have to be a certain race that holds power to hurt other races.
Bro,
See, but so then if you have the power to hurt other races through your bias and your prejudice, then you are being racist. If your goal is to make white people not feel comfortable, then you are using your power, your influence, in order to project your prejudice and your bias onto them to hopefully make them feel uncomfortable.
I love
you are engaging in racism. You can justify it to yourself all you want to, but at the end of the day, the only bigot that will be left standing will be you.
Marxists, they just make shit up. They just make stuff up in order to fit their worldview, right?
No, this is modern sociology vernacular about what racism is. It's what I say. They are speaking a different language. This is modern academia speak for what racism is.
They literally just made up that definition, right? They threw power in there because they know that logically speaking, they cannot claim to be against racism when they literally are for racism against whites. So in order to
see, they think that it's the caveat that allows them to be able to get away with it. But the problem is that it's power. So if the balance shifts and black people suddenly have more power, then white people are completely within their right to be racist against black people because there's a power imbalance. It doesn't just affect black people. It is prejudice, it is bias, and it is power.
Seem like they're not contradicting themselves, right?
If the rules are that the people in power cannot be, if the rules are that the people in power cannot be prejudiced or biased against the people that are out of power, then black people, when they become into power, cannot be prejudiced or biased against white people.
To address the hypocrisy.
In other words, they can't be reverse racist. Not only can they not, or they can't be anti-racist. Not only can they not be anti-racist, but anti-racism, by her own definition, will be just regular racism. You will be engaging in racism. And them engaging in racism to counter your racism will become the new anti-racism. You don't get out of this.
They changed the definition of racism in order to make it seem like it's impossible for white people to experience racism.
So they just justify it.
Clearly it is, right? It is possible to be racist towards whites, okay? If you openly discriminate against whites, you feel like whites are inferior, you think that they should be denied opportunities that other people have just solely based off their skin color, their race, that they should be treated differently, okay? That you're racist, right? You are a racist, okay?
Well, see, all that it takes is for you to be in a position where you have the power to make those rules. If you choose to make those rules, then yes, you are a racist.
But see, here's the thing. These black Marxists, they openly want to be able to feel that way about whites, right? And push for open discrimination against whites, for whites to be treated like second-class citizens.
See, again, not just whites. Anyone who stands in the way of the superior race on its quest for power, anything that gets in its way can be labeled a threat.
They openly want to be able to push
it doesn't have to just be white people,
racist, right?
They just turn it into whoever enemy they need to be the enemy that day and tell them go fight
without feeling bad about it. Okay, that's what they want. So this is why they got to change the definition, okay, to make themselves feel better.
Black people can be prejudiced. Black people can be biased. Black people cannot be racist because we hold no power.
Then Justin Pearson, despite being in government, is a powerless black man. All of the black representation that were in these districts were powerless, have been powerless the whole time. And the idea that them cracking these districts and making them Republican doesn't matter. It doesn't.
And Anna Kasparian,
because they didn't have power anyways. If you already don't have power and you break up that power, I mean, 0 divided by anything, you come into problems. So 0, it's 0. There's nothing.
Knows that.
Yo, so at what
This
point will
is a
black people hold power, right? Was Obama becoming president not enough? Right? That was not enough. Okay.
And if they gain power and continue to engage in racism, in anti-racism, to go against racism, then you will then be engaging in racism. You will have the power, and therefore the actions that you partake in will be racist.
At what point, right, will black people hold power if the most powerful man in the world, at one point in time, at least was half black, right? At what point will black people actually be able to hold power enough to be considered?
Jasmine Crockett, she didn't have power. Just all of a sudden, all of these people who are in government positions that are black, or even people who aren't in position, like Kamala Harris was VP, was not in a position of power. You're insane.
Racist, okay? I think the answer to that question is never, right? Never. Because if that ever happens, then their worldview falls apart, right? The grift falls apart. The grift goes away, okay? There's nothing to boo-hoo, whine, and cry victimhood over if that ever happens.
Dog whistle to MAGA. You know, they've been courting MAGA, the people who are leaving MAGA, but they use racism to lure MAGA onto their side, right? She knows this.
Oh,
black
man.
people have no power to hold any other race down, to oppress any other race. We have no power. But what race holds all of that power?
White people have been of privilege, right? White, if you're a working class person, you're screwed. And how is it helpful to now do the reverse of the terrible, you know?
How many Supreme Court justices are people of color? Like, no,
or biased
this is silly.
That were said about other groups of people.
That's,
like, you're not going to change.
For you to sit here and say that there are no people in positions of power is
a culture unless you're willing to reject all of that, right? And
what Anna is saying is that you're not going to change the culture, meaning black people.
No, the culture has to want to change. The culture has to recognize that it's doing something wrong, that it's being racist, and choose not to be racist. You can't just point your finger at them and say, you're a bigot piece of garbage, and I want nothing to do with you, and then expect that shaming them is going to make them change. It doesn't work that way. In A Christmas Carol, Scrooge didn't change by him getting lectured about how awful of a human being he was. And yet you think that's a legitimate tactic that's going to get people to change.
Should not
No.
speak up about their oppression.
More than likely, they're just going to become more bitter and resentful. They're going to match your angry energy with their own angry energy.
Black people should not correct racism and racist. Black people should
Then
not.
what is the point of reverse racism? Isn't the point of reverse racism to counter racism? To stop it?
Not continuously remind white people of history so that you can learn from history so you don't repeat the mistakes.
I know this is said a lot. I know this is just like a turn of phrase or whatever. Some people literally were born yesterday. Some people are literally being born right now. Yes, there are some people who are not going to know history. There are some people who are going to have no understanding of the game that we are playing at all. In any capacity whatsoever. They're not going to understand any of it.
The past. Why? Because it makes white people feel bad. It makes white people feel bad. So no, we want black.
Not really. As far as I'm aware, my ancestors didn't own slaves. I have no reason to be upset about being a white person.
People to stop talking about their oppression, the racism. We want to forget all of that. We want a clean
I mean,
slate. And
I call aspects of your culture peak culture. I don't know what more you want from me.
move forward. And black people, if you experience racism and oppression, don't talk about it.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's what she's actually saying, right? I think what she's saying
It
is
might
that,
be.
hey, we should not openly demonize white people for being white, right? But see, what these people don't understand is that when you constantly remind white people of how bad their ancestors were, right? And you're saying that you are a reflection of your ancestors today, that you are guilty for your ancestors' sins, right? When you say that, when you openly say that, which is what they mean by reminding white people, right? Let's remind white people how bad they treated blacks, right? You're openly demonizing people based off race. And what Anna Kasparian is saying, rightfully saying here, is that is what was happening post George Floyd, and that is wrong. She is correct. It is wrong, okay? I'm black, and I don't want to continue to hear about how black people are oppressed and victims, because I'm not a victim, right? I don't feel oppressed. In fact, I feel very blessed to be born as an American, right? I would much rather be black here than anywhere else on earth, right? So I don't understand how black people can claim oppression when black people are doing way better here than anywhere else on earth, right? All of Africa, right? There are no black people doing better than black Americans. So again, if living in America is oppression, then I guess I'm good with that, right? I'm cool with it, okay? Give me more of that. I want more oppression.
Which doesn't really make sense. Why is it that the people in Africa live the way that they do, but we live here if they share a common ancestry? The black narrative is that they built the country. Okay, if that's true, then the country, because you built it, should look like your traditional African tribes, right? Which should have been, like, lavishly constructed compared to a lot of other things in the area, right? Because you were so good at construction and architecture and engineering. I don't...
Okay, I'd rather have oppression here than whatever you call what black people are experiencing in Africa, right? Without the white man, right? So, clearly, the black Marxists are really upset because they're realizing that, hey, these white people who are supposed to be our allies, they're racist, right? According to the black Marxists. We have another Marxist to react to here, the amazing Lucas, who is going to also be upset with the fact that he realizes that their so-called allies are not pro-black.
Like it or not, black people care about the border. Man, shut the up. Black people care about the border. I don't give a
Of course they do. You think foundational black Americans don't care about the fact that migrants are coming into this country and taking jobs from them and from their descendants?
what black people care about. Oh, black people care about this. Black people care about that. Like, shut the up. That's not how politics works. Clown take.
Yeah, that's actually how they feel, right? That's actually how a lot of these leftists feel.
Can you shut the fuck up when it comes to black folk because you really don't want to talk about us unless it comes from voting? When is the last time you spoke about Sudan? Don't take. Why don't Democrats want to win elections? White boy jihad summer. Eric Adams literally has an approval rating of 20% with saying he should resign. This is cut off. Chatters have zero clue about the people that claim to be experts on Hassan. I don't think that chatter is black. Look at his logs. I'm not in agreement with you usually, but that is... Oh.
They're only using black people to push their Marxist agenda. If black people fall out of line with the Marxist agenda, it's F them. F them. That's literally how they feel. And it's just so funny how they're realizing, they're now just, a lot of these pro-blacks are just realizing it.
Can you shut the fuck up when it comes to black folks? You really don't want to talk about us unless it comes from voting. When is the last time you spoke about Sudan? I'm gonna fucking ether you. Any other black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this fucking chat? Suck my fucking cock, okay?
And then most recently, we have Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian was very much hardcore lefty, you know, hardcore liberal.
Oh my god.
And as time has gone on,
How do people... How do you watch how do you sit there and watch that fucking garbage? Holy god.
She seemed to be very hardcore right from the clips that I've seen. And there is this one
It explains so much.
Right. Anna Kasparian is hardcore right. It's just a great example of how
I have to go back because I laughed through it.
And then most recently, we have Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian was very much hardcore lefty, you know, hardcore liberal. And as time has gone on, she's, of course, you know, flipped the switch. She seemed to be very hardcore right from the clips that I've seen. And there is this one...
Hardcore right. Anna Kasparian is
Well, see, there is no middle ground. You're either a leftist extremist, you're either far left, because everyone on the left has to be far left, otherwise you're not on the left, or you're a right-wing extremist. It's oppressor and oppressed. They are the oppressed, he is oppressed, Anna is an oppressor. She just is. But again, like you say, they can't agree on who the oppressor is. He says that it's Anna, Anna says that it's the elite. Like, who is it? Who are we supposed to be fighting against? They don't know.
It's just a great example of how delusional
Each other
are. How they will talk about politics and just say the most ignorant stuff. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Anna Kasparian is not hardcore right.
It would be one thing if they said it with a modicum of humility. If they were like, this is my opinion. I don't know. No, he says it brazenly. Like he knows.
She's just liberal, the actual definition of liberal on social issues, right? She's not a militant leftist on social issues. She might be more militant leftist on some other issues, right? But when it comes to this specific social issue involving...
Well, it doesn't matter. There only needs to be one thing that you don't align with the Democrats on for them to just kick you out outright.
You know,
it doesn't matter.
Right? Specifically
if you aren't completely 100% on board with the movement, they don't want anything to do with you. You're one of the people that's going to get shot in the back during one of the protests because you're suddenly siding with the enemy because you aren't pulling your weight hard enough.
Or anti-white sentiment. Again, she's just not an extremist on that issue. She is not a militant. I don't think she sees this as the main conflict, right, that Marxists should be concerned with. But see, the cultural Marxists are militant when it comes to racial issues and identity issues. Classical Marxists, like Anna Kasparian, are smart enough to understand that, hey, this race stuff is dividing us and a distraction from the action.
See, but it can't be because... Well, see, but it is.
Oppression, which is coming from the billionaires.
Yeah. She doesn't think that it's the class issue or the race issue.
Marxist agenda to have these cultural Marxists want to focus on race and white demonization, right? So it's just very hilarious. It's very funny to think about.
A clip that's going viral currently right now on the internet, and it's of a clip of her talking about the George Floyd death. And I'm like, okay, well, what she has to say about, George Floyd. And I'm listening to this.
I mean, admits it's a clip. Sounds like he hasn't listened to the whole thing. Again, acts like he understands the whole context and is speaking as an authority who's actually experienced the whole thing when he hasn't.
And I kid you not, she uses George Floyd's demise to stand on his death, to cry and
I personally like deletion better.
be a victim. Now, where have we seen this before? I don't know what to tell you. It's like the lineage of evil. It's the same playbook, right? You have Kim Porter, Amber Geiger, the list goes on. They get on the stand and they cry, oh, I didn't know, oh, woe is me. And that's exactly what Anna Kasparian's doing. She tries to say that during, George Floyd and what happened there, and she's such a coward, right? That's what I really despise about these people, this lineage of evil, is that she's such a coward that she can't even come out and say white, right? She says that there's a lot of, racism against, light-skinned people.
So, for instance, after the George Floyd protests happened and everything, there was this culture of people openly saying some pretty horrific things about, people with light skin.
Huh? What the hell is light-skinned people, bruh? There are black people who are light-skinned. What are you talking about, boo-boo? Huh? What do you mean? But we all know what she means. She means white people. Now, eventually in the...
Well, see, again, do you mean white people or Asian people? There's a distinction between black people and brown people, unless you don't see that distinction,
video,
which
she comes
could be
out
possible, I
and
guess.
said it, right? Because she had to muster up some courage to come out and say the W word. But she's like, there's a bunch of racism, and, people were saying mean things about, quite frankly, light-skinned people. And there was, racism against, white people that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just open racism against white people.
What?
Yeah.
And I find this interesting because it tailors, because I would have probably bet my life she probably voted for Trump. Because at the end of the day, one thing that binds these people together...
the funny thing is I don't think she did.
Is their whiteness, all right? We see that even with Nick Fuentes, that he's...
So when the only thing that unites them is their whiteness, that's a bad thing. But arguably the only thing that's uniting you is your blackness.
willing to completely go into a Great Depression, he said,
his,
if it
blackness.
means we maintain a white majority country. So this is par for the course with these ignorants.
So you get the gist. I hope that you learned something here about these people.
And maybe a little bit about yourself.
Probably on 99% of things, they agree with each other, right? The cultural Marxists and the classical Marxists, they probably agree with each other 99%. Except on this very issue of race and identity, which cultural Marxists believe is what makes them oppressed, right?
No, there are actually a lot of issues. They don't agree on whether trans people should be in the sport of their chosen gender or not. There are some Democrats who think that trans women should be allowed in women's sports, that men who want to be women should be allowed in female spaces, including sports competition.
Because they're black.
There are lots of issues that the far left holds that normal leftists, the old guard leftists, don't agree with. Marxism. Bill Maher doesn't agree with the Marxism. Oh, I guess this is Marxism. Well, no, this is racism. He doesn't agree with the Marxism. He doesn't agree with socialism. He doesn't agree with communism. He's a capitalist. I believe he's a capitalist.
Right, not a man that they're oppressed, and that white people have to be demonized. And if you don't believe in white demonization, then you're far right, right? You're a Trump supporter. That is what alienates people like Anna Kasparian, who otherwise would be on board with the rest of the Marxist agenda, okay? But yet, because she doesn't agree with them 99%, hey, this is what you get, right? This is what you get.
Well, because this is the people in the press who were getting attacked by people on the left on like Blue Sky for going to the correspondence dinner. It's like the left polices its own. I don't know why you sit here and think that they don't, or they do it like fairly. Like, no.
That's what be the enemy. But it's really hard for me to feel bad for her because she was in bed with these people, right? She was participating in the
She
same
still
type
is.
of demonization that now she is experiencing, right? From the same people that she was in bed with, and she was doing the exact same thing. Now she knows how it feels to be demonized just simply based off your skin color and your race. It's just funny to me how, you know, this stuff kind of goes around, right?
And no, it's anti-racism. And it's the point that anti-racism is just racism. Like, you justify it to yourself all you want. You're still engaging in the behavior. You can call it involuntary deletion. It doesn't mean that you still didn't kill someone without their consent.
Almost as if being in bed with these people is very toxic, right? It backfires. And eventually, it's going to backfire on the Democrat Party. It already is backfiring on the Democrat Party. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get a whole lot worse, okay? Because these people are militant in their belief. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Because this is not the first time that this has happened. This is not the first time that Anna Kasparian has gone off script and has gotten in trouble, has gotten backlash for people calling her out going against the script. I don't know. It's the cycle repeating itself with people who either don't know and didn't do their actual due diligence so they don't know what they're talking about, or people who should know better and don't. People who should know that this is not the first time that this has happened, and just sit here and act like this is new, which they shouldn't.